Hi, everyone. I'm going to do a shorter version of a video that I just did, hoping that my students watch it. I'm going to share my screen, and I'm going to go over today's lesson. I just talked at length through this lesson, and I'm going to try to give the short version now because I struggle with students watching long videos. The objective for today is for you to go ahead and you to create an Animo Voices piece. This hopefully will be a break from your SI. Here's the objective. I will pause so you can read it. As you can see, there's not much time. Students should have 10 sustained investigation pieces, one including Animo Voices. Here are helpful links for you to score higher on your AP Art portfolio. Notice that we're doing really well, but currently our slides in this bottom are missing written evidence, and they're also missing revision, refinement, and research. Here is the band we need to be in scoring in. The Animo Voices rubric is designed to help you to score higher. Here are some exemplars of revision, discovery, and processes. Notice that students are implementing several layers and several materials and several mediums and accurate human anatomy and proportions in order to score high. Notice there are examples of human hands. Notice that there are accurate proportions of the human anatomy, human face. And notice how we can build on Bridgman's handscape in order to score high. More examples of human hands in the AP Art portfolio. Ask yourself, do you have detailed renderings like so? How can you practice and experiment to push your art to the next level? Here again, we have accurate examples of human proportions. Again, you have this deck, so you can pause and you can compare this work to your current work. Not to feel bad, but to get inspired. Here we have more examples. Notice how much symbolism and how the artist implements design, such as emphasis and unity in order to create a cohesiveness. Here you have Andrea Campos talking through her artwork. You can stop and you can get inspired by her. How do you score higher? Well, what you need to do is you need to have keywords in your written evidence, such as research, interpretation, process improvement, experimentation, ideas shifted, representation, to achieve a better, revised, and then I played with. These are words that we're currently not seeing in written evidence. If you have these words in your written evidence, you can score higher. Here is an example of an AP Art portfolio that I would like you to discuss with your classmates. Notice how we see evidence of revision within the written evidence, connecting and referring to each work. Sometimes when I ask you guys what your inquiry question is, you have a hard time expressing it. If you're constantly rewriting your written evidence, you'll have a clearer direction and sense of what you're doing. Notice how work 3 are all composite imagery. This is very encouraged. If you include photos of your experimentation seen here and full pages of visual journal pages where you're planning and revising and you're making notes of your plan and how you're going to connect everything, you will score higher. Here we see an example of a clear foreground and background and examples of human anatomy. Notice how it's clear how SI work 3 and all the planning led to a more complete work 4. What I want you to do today is write out your SI question and then go through this process to ask your questions about how you can tweak your wording, evolve your question, and revise your art making. How can you make it new and more specific? In order to do that, go ahead and write your question out like so, and then use the sentence starters, why, how, and what if. You can pause the video and look at some examples. Parents who are watching this video with their children, you need to ask yourself, is your child doing these full-on planning pages, writing, and letting their question evolve? So go through this assignment, please, everyone, as a fire right, and show it to me. If you're wondering how to score higher, you could go ahead and remind yourself that art comes from the heart. And you should have multiple mind maps, not just the first one from the year. Notice all of the note-taking that is involved if we are exploring, revising, and refining. These are assignments that were assigned last week that were not complete. If you do these assignments, evidence of planning, revision, experimentation is an AP requirement, and it will help you to score higher on the rubrics and all of your SIs. Note that these planning pages can be SIs. Here are more examples of revision, refinement, and research. You should constantly be looking up new ways to approach your SI and evolve your question. Here's more examples of revision, experimentation, and research. A misconception that students need to be aware of is that if you procrastinate, you're not going to have time to revise an experiment. You need to do that this semester. So please make sure you're doing this every week during studio hours. I've been here for the last hour and a half. No one is here. Here's more examples of experimentation and revision. While it's very unrealistic for this to happen for a lot of students, I understand because there's a lack of space. Please remember that the space is open to you here, and you need to plan to spend those extra hours on your art. Remember, this is a college class and it requires the extra time. This isn't a basic art class. So this is how much process, experimentation, and revision we should see in your portfolio. Even though it may not all show up on your SI slides, I see it and I'm grading you on it. Parents of AP art students must understand that if they're not putting in extra hours outside of class, it's really hard for them to score because revisions of SI pieces are a requirement. You can show the process of revising with different materials, different mediums, and different drawing techniques which your children all have access to in this classroom. Again, here's an image of how you can let your SI build on each other. Parents, please look with your children to see if you see a building of the sustained investigation between the imagery. Is there a connection between their written evidence, their planning pages, which I haven't seen children do in a while, and their building of their SIs? Can we see a connection linked to the inquiry? I encourage you to stop and read this child's written evidence so you can further understand how this portfolio builds. One thing that we're struggling with is students are not revising, reviewing the elements of art and principles of design. I often ask children what these words mean, and they say I'm putting them on the spot. In an AP class, you are required to study. Make sure you're studying and you're reviewing these. So why do we have to do Animo voices? Frankly, I think everyone needs a break from their SI, and the inquiry question is written for you. How does joy and how does an understanding of woe help us to understand joy? What does joy look like? What is the sharing of joy? How do students express it? How does the sharing of joy exist in my life? I am going to do this inquiry during Thanksgiving to model for my students this revision, and you could win a prize. So today in class, you are doing your color draft for Animo voices. Please pause the video and notice where the elements and principles live within these two SI pieces. As part of a scaffold to your color draft, please complete this mood board. Make sure you have a conceptual statement that is in full sentences and addresses several big ideas, like so. I just want to wish everyone good luck and make sure you're photographing and you're documenting your work. Make sure that you are taking pictures of all of this and show it to me during studio hours like now so you can raise your grade. Make sure you're paying close attention to the rubric. If you're not reading the rubric, it's going to be harder for you to score high on these bands. I hope this video helped to alleviate any misconceptions about AP Art.